No one at Willow Crest Academy noticed the poor girl at first, not really. She sat in the last row by the window where the paint peeled and the sunlight didn't quite reach, her uniform a hand-me-down that had been washed too many times, the sleeves stitched shorter with uneven thread. Her name was Anya, and she spoke only when spoken to, which wasn't often. The school was full of polished shoes and polished accents, children dropped off by drivers in black cars, children who talked loudly about vacations and gadgets. Among them sat the billionaire's son, Ethan Blackwood, though most kids didn't know the full weight of that name, only that his father owned towers, companies, and headlines. Ethan was different from the others in a quiet way. He didn't brag. He didn't laugh loudly. He struggled. Numbers tangled in his head, letters danced when he tried to read, and every test felt like a small public failure. Teachers were patient, classmates were not. Whispers followed him. Smirks landed like paper cuts. What no one saw was that during math hour, when the teacher turned to write on the board, Anya leaned slightly toward Ethan and tapped her pencil twice, once to get his attention, once to point at the corner of his notebook. Slowly, carefully, she showed him how to break the problem into tiny steps. No words. Just gestures. A fraction became a simple story. A long division problem became a ladder he could climb. Ethan's shoulders relaxed. His breathing slowed. For the first time in weeks, he wrote an answer and didn't erase it. This happened again the next day, and the next. Anya never asked for thanks. She never looked up to see if anyone noticed. She only helped when she was sure the teacher wouldn't see, careful not to embarrass him, careful not to draw attention to herself. What she didn't know was that Ethan's father, Marcus Blackwood, the man whose name moved markets, had decided to visit the school unannounced that morning. He had cancelled a meeting worth millions because his son had cried at breakfast, whispering that school made him feel small. Marcus stood at the back of the classroom, arms crossed, jaw tight, watching his empire reduced to a single boy struggling with a worksheet. He watched the teacher explain. He watched Ethan freeze. Then he saw it, the smallest movement in the room. Anya's pencil. The tilt of her notebook. The patience in her hands. He expected Ethan to cheat, to copy answers. Instead, he saw learning. He saw kindness without audience. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. When the bell rang, he didn't storm in or make a speech. He followed. At lunch, he watched from afar as Ethan sat with Anya, sharing half his sandwich without making a show of it. She thanked him like it was nothing special. Marcus asked the principal quietly about the girl. The answer came with a pause and a sigh. Anya's mother cleaned offices at night. Her father had passed away. Fees were always late but always paid, somehow. Scholarships were limited. Marcus nodded, said nothing, and left. That evening, something unthinkable happened, not loud, not flashy, but permanent. Marcus set up a trust in Anya's name, covering her education through college, anonymously. He funded a learning support program at the school so no child would ever feel small for learning differently again. He hired Anya's mother at one of his companies with fair pay and humane hours. And he did one more thing, he wrote a letter to his son, sealing it for the future, explaining that true power was what he had witnessed that day, quiet help, given freely. The next morning, Anya found a new notebook in her desk, plain, sturdy, with a note that read, "Thank you for being kind." No signature. She smiled, just a little, and went back to work. Years later, when headlines spoke of Ethan Blackwood as a leader who changed how companies treated people, he would tell one story off the record, a story about a poor girl who never asked for anything and a father who finally understood what wealth was for. If this story moved you, if you believe small kindness can change big destinies, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us that the quietest actions often create the loudest impact, and you won't want to miss the next one.